Hello friends, welcome back to TechnoGeek SFDC and we are back with another coding scenario. So this coding scenario is basically for your practice as well as for your preparation for the interview. So this type of scenarios I would say has been asked in multiple MNCs. The recent one I remember is from the Accenture or the KPMG. So similarly there are multiple MNCs who are looking for candidates who have experience in these types of interview questions. So what the question is, okay, so let's first deep dive into the question. So here the scenario is that we have a checkbox on account that is threshold achieved, okay. Now, whenever any opportunity is getting created, okay, and after the opportunities are getting created, if the total amount of the opportunity related to any account. So for example, I have account 1, on that I already have two opportunities and I have created a third opportunity as well. Okay, so when I created third opportunity, then what I need to do is that I need to check what is the sum of the amount of all the three opportunities, and if it is more than 1 million, then I need to make the checkbox as true. Okay, so there is a checkbox on account named as threshold achieved, so I need to mark that checkbox as true. Now, the main catch here or the main scenario here is that I don't want, or basically we are not supposed to create any new fields or any roll up summary field or anything like that. This whole logic has to be in the Apex side. Okay, or basically in the coding side. So how we will achieve this? So first of all, if we read the scenario properly, what we have been asked here is whenever the opportunity amount is more than 1 million, this means the total sum of the amount will only change whenever I am creating a new opportunity. Okay, there is also a scenario that if the opportunity amount is updated. So in both the scenarios, let's say if the amount is updated or the new opportunity has been created with the amount in it. Okay, so this is our first scenario. Now if we understood this particular scenario, then what we understood is we need to basically write a trigger, an apex trigger, on which object? On opportunity object, because here we are seeing the change in amount field on opportunity or a creation of new opportunity. That is, the opportunity records are being either created or updated. So basically DML is happening on opportunity object, and that's where we are going to write a trigger on opportunity object. Okay, this is our first scenario or the first checkbox, or basically you can say the first criteria which we have checked. Now we know that okay, there is going to be a trigger and which object it is going to be on, that is on opportunity. Now next step is what event we are going to use here. Okay, so here basically we will be using two events, that is our insert and update. So we have two scenarios for now, that if the opportunity is getting inserted or if the amount is basically getting updated, the amount field on the opportunity is getting updated. Okay, these two scenarios we are considering here. So these are our basically events. Now what type of context we will be using here? We got the event, that is it is going to be insert and update. Okay, now what is the context here? So context is going to be whether it's going to be after, whether it's going to be before. So if we read the statement properly, what it is asking is that we need to update a checkbox on account that is not on the same record which is initiating the trigger, but a related record uh, related to the I mean basically the related record of the opportunity, that is account record. So since it is a related record, we will go with the after context. Okay, so now if we checked the scenarios one by one, that first is our so first context first is we have to write a trigger on which object, that is on an opportunity, on what events, that will be an insert or update events, and then the last part is we need to basically use an after context because we have to update the account record which is the parent of the opportunity. Okay, so keeping all these scenarios together, let's see how we are going to write this complete solution in the in Apex or basically in Trigger for this particular coding scenario. So now I am in my Salesforce developer sandbox, and I'll just show you that on account I have a, okay, so I'll go to account and we'll see that I have created a field name as threshold reached, okay, which is a checkbox type as per our scenario. we have kept it as threshold reached. Now, next what we need to do next is we need to basically create the trigger on our opportunity record. Okay, opportunity object basically. So what we'll do, we'll go to developer console. Okay, I'll just close all these tabs. Now, first is we'll be creating a trigger, Apex trigger, named as, let's say I'll give it as opportunity amount trigger. Okay, opportunity amount trigger on which object? So as we discussed, it will be on the opportunity object. So we'll select opportunity and we'll click on submit. So as you can see, it has already created a sample class or a sample class here. So we next what we need to do, we need to change the context or basically the events here. So as we discussed, it will be after insert and after update. Okay. Now let's so now we will start with first checking whether if trigger dot is after and then if trigger dot is insert. Okay, so this is basically to keep your codes separated for each event so that tomorrow if you have to make some manipulations, you can easily manipulate that under which particular code block I need to make the change. Okay, now this is the starting point, but what we'll be doing is we'll be using another apex class here. Basically, see, for each of the scenarios, okay, basically it's going to be after insert or after update. For both the scenarios, what we have here is basically we have the same logic which we are going to execute. Okay, so for doing this, it's always better to have a separate handler class, and in that we can write our reusable logic, and then we can just call the handler class just by passing the appropriate variables there. Okay, so I'll just create a handler class here. So I'll just write opportunity amount trigger handler. Okay. Now this has created a class that is opportunity amount trigger handler. Now what I'll do, I'll just write public static void and then process account. Okay, I'll just write a process account, and what I need to pass here is basically I need to pass the list of opportunities. Okay, I need to pass basically list of opportunity, or instead of list of opportunity I can just maybe pass here list of IDs. I need basically account IDs here. I'll tell you what is the context here so that at the end you it will be completely clear that why we are using a set of IDs of account only and not the opportunities. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll use set of ID, or let me just write it list of ID, and then I'll use account IDs. That's it. Okay, now we have created a method, it's a reusable method, that is our list of account ID. Okay, now what we need to first check, we need to basically check that okay, for this particular account the sum of all the opportunities whether it's going to be more than 1 million or not. Okay, so in that case what we will do, we will use the aggregate queries here. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll write for aggregate result. Okay, let's say I'll just put HER. This will be select account ID. Okay, select account ID from opportunity. Okay, so we are writing the query on opportunity considering the account IDs which we are passing in the parameter here. Okay, from opportunity where I'll write, okay, or I'll be using from opportunity Group by. So in aggregate queries, first of all, whatever fields we use here in select, that has to be grouped by. Okay, that has to be added along with the group by. Then only we can use the individual fields in the column here. Okay, so first I need account ID. Next I need sum of amount field. Okay, let's say I'll write AMT. Sum of amount field from opportunity group by account ID. Okay, having, so we are going to use a keyword that is having. So having is basically used whenever you want to use some aggregate result in your queries. Okay, so for example, in your where clause, if you want to use count, some min, max, average, then in that cases we will be using the having keyword. Okay, so for example, I'll be using having sum of amount greater than 1 million. Okay, so I'll write, okay, so it is more than 1 million. That is my select. Okay, select account ID sum of amount AMT from opportunity group by account ID having sum of this and account ID in, I'll just use it as account ID list, account ID in account ID list. So basically what I am doing here is I have written an aggregate query, okay, where I am basically fetching the fetching only those accounts whose sum of amount or sum of opportunity amounts is greater than 1 million by using the having clause here. Okay, so if you can see here, I am using having, and after having I am using sum of amount greater than 1 million. So basically, if I have to use any aggregate or basically something like count or let's say sum, average, all these types of functions in the where clause, that's where we will be using the having keyword. Okay, now I have used, and also I have put one more condition that I don't need to check between all the accounts. I need to only check those accounts whose opportunities are basically being updated or inserted. Okay, so that is also one condition I have added here. Okay, now for bulkification, I'll use account ACC list equals new list of account and then account ACC. I'll use ACC equals new account, and then what I'll be using here, ID equals aggregate result I have. So basically I need to use AGR dot account ID here, that in this way I'll get the account ID whose related opportunity sum is more than 1 million. Okay, so how we will use here, basically ID equals AGR dot get, I'll use account ID. Okay, so this is basically the format of capturing the field from the aggregate query, that is AGR, my variable of the aggregate result, followed by dot get and whatever is the account ID. Okay, whatever is the field name here. So I'm using account ID. Okay, and then next is comma, whatever is my checkbox name. Okay, so I'll use checkbox equals true because I need to just make it as true. Okay, and then I'll use ACC list dot add ACC. Okay, and then I'll just do database dot update ACC. I'll just put ACC list comma false. Database dot update I'm basically using so that if I have to use a partial updation, so that's where I'll be using it, so that if any of the record in the list is not matching the criteria, it is throwing some error, so only that record will be dropped and other records will get updated. Okay, so that's why I'm using database dot update here. Okay, now let's see, we are getting some error here from object to ID. Okay, so this is in the form of object, so I'll just use id dot value of this. So let's see if this is going away. So basically what we are doing is we are kind of typecasting, or let's say I'll just make it string dot value of. Okay, so basically we are just typecasting this. But basically when we use aggregate result dot get field name, it gives us the result in the form of object. Object is nothing but a generic type. Okay, so that's where we will be basically converting it into a string and we will be passing it in the ID. Okay, so now I will save it. So till now what we have done, we have created a generic class or generic method which will be doing our processing. Okay, so we have just done a generic method where we are doing our processing related to whatever the coding our scenario was. Okay, basically we are querying the appropriate account whose sum of opportunity amount is more than 1 million, and then we are just making the checkboxes true. So our generic logic is created. Now how we will call this generic logic? Okay, so for that we will come here. I'll just create a new, you can say a list. So basically I think we have a list here, right? So list of ID. So I'll just create list of ID, account ID data equals new list of ID. Okay. Now, in insert, what I have to first check that, for example, I'll be using for and then opportunity OPP equals trigger dot new. So trigger dot new means basically during the insert process, whatever the opportunity I have received, I need to just check if the amount field is not empty, because if the amount field is empty, then in that case even I don't need to pass this value pass this logic to my handler class, because I know that the amount is not going to change and the checkbox will remain as is. So that's where I'll be first checking that if opp dot amount is opp dot amount is not equal to null, and opp dot amount, sorry, opp dot amount is greater than 0. Okay, if these two are the scenarios, if it is more than 0 and it is not equal to null, then what I'm doing is I'm going to put the opportunity dot account ID in the list. Okay, so basically I got the account ID whose related opportunity amount is changed. Okay, now this is one thing we have done. uh, Account ID, what we have done is we have just checked that during insert, if the amount is more than 0, then only I will be considering that account ID. Okay, similarly, next what I will be doing is I will be writing the similar logic in the update as well. Okay, so trigger dot, or maybe I'll just take it out. So if trigger dot is update. Okay, so if the record got inserted, then in that case this logic will run. If it is updated, then this logic will run. Okay, now if trigger dot is update, what I'll do, I'll first uh, query over the opportunity opp trigger dot new. Okay, I have started running on the trigger dot new, whatever the record got updated. Okay, now if what I'll be doing is I'll be first checking if the amount field got updated, because we are only concerned about the amount field. So if the amount field got updated, then only we will call our generic logic. Okay, so what I'll do, opp dot amount is not equal to trigger dot old map dot get opp dot id dot amount. So what we are doing here is I am checking the new version of opportunity record amount with older version of same opportunity record amount, checking that if the amount field got changed or not. If the amount field got changed, then only it is the record for our interest. Otherwise, we don't need that record, right? So I am just first checking if the amount field got changed. and OPP dot amount is greater than 0. Okay, I can just put for null check as well here. So I'll write OPP dot amount is not equal to null and this. Okay, so the after putting these conditions again, what I'll be doing, I'll just put it here. Okay, so what I am doing, I have just added it into the ID, or basically whatever the account ID we have created here. Okay, so we got our account IDs on which we need to process, both in case of insert as well as in case of update. So we have seen how the logic is going to be for insert and update. Now, next step is we have to just call our handler class passing this list of account ID. Okay, so where we will do it, we will just check here if account ID dot size is greater than 0. This is just for check that if the size is greater than 0, then only I will be calling this particular method. Okay, instead of simply calling every time, I'll just put I'll just check for a zero record. Okay, if it is more than 0, then only I'll call my process account record here. Okay, and then we can save it. So as you can see, our opportunity amount trigger got saved, our handler got saved. Now let's see how it is going to behave. Okay, so for example, I'll just take a duplicate and then I'll go to opportunities here. So as you can see, I have very limited opportunities in my system. So for example, I have this demo opportunity check. Okay, in which, okay, if I go to details, this is my account, that is demo check. And in details, you can see that threshold reached is still unchecked. Okay, now let's try to create an opportunity with more than 1 million. Okay, so that the total sum will become 1 million. Okay, so I'll just put coding scenario test. What will be the account name? Account name will be demo check. Amount, what I'll be using is I'll be using, so I'm using 1.2 million here. Okay, close date, I'll let's say take it as this, forecast category as best case. So these are some of the mandatory fields I just added here, and now we'll click on save and then let's see what. Okay, stage is prospecting, and I'll click on save. So we can see that this is my amount. Now let's check on the account what happened. So I'll go to detail, I'll check. So as you can see, my threshold reached checkbox has been marked as true. Why? Because I have two opportunities related to this particular uh, account. I'll just show you both the opportunities. Okay, one is having value of one uh, 1.2 million, and it is also having almost 1200K. Okay, or 120K. So some summation of both the both the opportunity amount is since more than 1 million. That's why my checkbox got checked. So I hope you got an idea that how to handle these types of scenarios in your even in your interviews, as well as if you are doing these types of scenarios in your day-to-day project works as well. Okay, so this was our coding scenario number 20. Definitely we are going to come up with more and more coding scenarios for your practices. Okay, till then we will take a break, and if you like this video, thanks for your time. for watching this video, as well as share this video and like the video so that we'll get more motivated to present you more and more scenarios related to triggers, related to Apex, and whatever the technology you want to get scenarios on, whether it's going to be LWC, flows, whatever, you can just write it in the comment and definitely we'll come up with that particular scenario in our next video. So till then, thanks for your time. Bye bye.